any public thing. So this concept that I'm going to talk to you about is so it's interesting. When we're talking about, first of all, we need to be recording our training sessions. And I don't mean recording like factual data, but in order for a coach, a proper coach, to help any student, they need to know what you've done. If you can't track it, it's hard to solve it. Like if I don't know what you've done, we don't know how to trace back what has worked and what hasn't worked for you, because every athlete is quite different, right? Now, I've seen a lot in different sports, but I'll use the most current one because it's archery, because I'm doing that now. Like I have many examples to cycling, I have many examples to marathon running, I have many examples in Sistema, but I'm doing the archery now, and you can kind of see it without a doubt, and you can see it clearly. You see people in practice that can shoot bullseyes all day long. There's no pressure on them whatsoever. You're just you're in your backyard, or you're training in your local archery club. There's nobody, there's no pressure to win. You're just shooting, and you see bullseyes, bullseyes, bullseyes. It's very similar to people training how to move. They're moving, and there's no pressure to move. The person is not aggressive. They're not hurting you, but you're moving, right? And you can move out of the way all the time, and you feel quite comfortable. Then when we add a little bit of pressure, we're talking about real pressure. We're talking about, okay, you're going to big competition in archery, and you want to do well. The problem that plagues people here is that the number one reason, at least for me, is you're now trying too hard. Okay, so trying too hard means you're thinking. Okay, so what separates people that can perform under pressure, and what separates people that can't perform under pressure, is trying too hard. Okay, so when you try to, because your mind can only focus on one thing at a time. That's all it can focus on, one thing at a time. So what you choose to think about is critical right now, because if you're trying to think about three things, you won't be able to under pressure. It's only one thing. Maybe in life we can multitask, but under pressure, it's the one thing we can only think of, right? So the question then becomes, what do you think about? All the greats will tell you, if you're thinking about what you're doing, you're going to be over trying. And if you're thinking about what you're doing, you're going to also be thinking about failure, because that's how the mind works. It has this worst case scenario, right? This is the consequence, right? So the great people that I've met that perform under pressure, we're talking about special forces. We're talking about athletes that can, hit a free throw in basketball every time. They can make their shot under pressure, like there's three guys on them and they still make their jumper. The guys in archery that can just crush 10 X's and 10s under incredible amount of pressure are the ones that have taught themselves how to focus on a process. So the only thing you can really control in a situation, a real situation, is not the outcome. You cannot control the outcome. No matter how good you are, you couldn't possibly control the outcome. But you can control the process of which the way you're going to deal with that thing. So when process is all up to me, the process that I choose to follow is up to me. Now in Sistema, you often hear, breathe, move, trust yourself, don't think. Don't think. There's that magic word. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's very hard not to think, because you're a smart guy. I'm a smart person too. It's very hard in our day and age to say, don't think. It was easy in the old days to say, don't think, because everybody understood it. You were in nature. You didn't have the technology you had. You know what I mean? It was easier to shut the mind off, because you weren't, it was something about our society. There wasn't the pressure. People weren't in such close proximity. So now the dilemma comes, what am I going to give my mind to do? So I need to occupy my mind. Otherwise it wants to hijack me. It wants to hijack me. It wants to try to take control of this scary situation and solve it. But it won't solve it. It's only going to panic, and it's going to make that panic happen, right? So I want to avoid over trying. And I know, like, listen, why is it that people can go to an archery range with nobody around and shoot bullseyes all friggin' day long? Because there's no pressure. So the point is, how do I simulate that with no pressure in a pressure situation? It's by not over focusing on what I don't want, right? So I have to give my mind something to do. So in those cases, you have to have good self-image. You have to have, because a lot of people have a bad self-image, and that if you have a bad self-image of yourself, right? I'm not saying you do, but I'm just saying if that's the case, right? No, for real, because it's the most thing. Most athletes at the higher level, they hide the self-image they have. You know, you have to the real listen. I can live with being beat by a better athlete, no problem. By a better martial artist, by a better archer. If he's better than me, I can live with that. But I can't live with me beating myself. That I can't. That's hard. When I know what I can do, that's the hard one. It's not that, of course, somebody's skilled can beat me. Yeah, I'm like, good for you, man. So when I'm performing, whether in archery or even in martial arts when I'm training, my main focus is not on taking somebody down or beating them. My main focus is on being the best me I can at that moment. So I always want to be, so when I'm competing with some great guys in archery, I'm not thinking I want to beat them or I want to win. I want to have the best performance I can have as myself. I want to perform. I know when I'm performing good. And if somebody beat me, good for you. That I'm happy. If I perform well, like meaning I know myself, right? I train enough to know what I can do, right? So if I know I'm here, but then all of a sudden when I performed, I was here, that means I beat myself. Something is my image of myself, or the way I think about myself, or the way I talk to myself, or the way I'm thinking too much. I'm trying too hard, right? You have to let things unfold. In martial arts, people without a doubt try too hard. They try too hard to take a person down, but this is unrealistic. You can't control whether you can get the person down. Have you ever seen like some footage of police officers, just 5 police officers just cannot get a guy down? They cannot control what he's going to do. 5 guys. How are you one person going to take one person down all the time, repeatedly? It's not going to happen. So free yourself of this outcome. I'm not outcome oriented. I am process oriented. I know the process of the way I'm going to approach something. That's the way I approach all my things in life. So in training, you have to be process oriented. What is your process? Of course, move out of the line of danger, 100%. And if you want to put pressure on yourself, by all means, do it. It's good for you. It's good to deal with some pressure. But when it starts to affect your self-image, the pressure is very bad. Does that make sense, Miro? Like it's really, really bad. You cannot, you have to be very careful, because every thought that comes into your head is marking you. It's imprinting your self-image. So if all of a sudden the person's coming at me like crazy and I'm panicking and I'm freaking out, and I'm only thing I'm able to think about is getting hit in the head or getting hurt, then I'm imprinting that. I'm imprinting that on my brain, and that's what I'm going to worry about, or that's what I'm going to think about, right? You cannot do that. I'm teaching my daughter how to drive, and I cannot, and I do not want to imprint an accident. I want to imprint the process of how you drive a vehicle, and keeping the self-image very good, because it's fragile. It's fragile in the beginning, right? If I make a mistake now as a driver, I can forget about it and understand the lesson, and it doesn't make me feel I'm less of a driver. But for a new driver, it's bad. Say, it seems like you wanted to say something.
I mean, I get it, but it'll take, I'll need to take some time for what you're saying.
Don't worry, it's recorded and you'll be able to listen to it. I want you to be clear about this. No, because it's the most important. You're working what I call a trivector. There's the physical training, but then there's your mental training. And your mental training is everything that you say to yourself is imprinted in your head. Everything you think about yourself. When I walk in somewhere, you don't have to walk around cocky, but you should believe that you belong there. You should believe that you belong there, right? That you belong there. You have as much right to be there, and you're as good as anybody else that's there. You don't have to think you're less or you're worse, because that self-image is the most important thing that stops people from intermediate to think. So I'll give you a funny example. I knew a guy who used to bowl. He was a bowler. He used to, I don't know, they have bowling up where you, but they're bowling, right? So his self-image of himself was an average bowler. Okay, he was an average bowler, and his most he ever got was 2 strikes in a row. He rarely got 3 strikes in a row. Like he got, but not in a row. So I was with him one time, and he got 3 strikes. I said, okay, go for 4 now. Come on, let's do 4. And he goes, oh, I've never done 4. And sure enough, he didn't do 4. His self-image keeps him in his box. His self-image is, I only get 3 strikes in a row. I cannot get 4. So because of that picture, his mind will correct. Okay, Bob only gets 3. He's at 3 now, so he can't get it. So his self-image is this. Now, if he only gets 1 strike, his self-image says, no, that's not like you. So you need to get 2 or 3. So it knows the lower limit and it knows the higher limit. So your image of yourself is very important, right? How you see your ability. If you see yourself, you need to say to yourself, no, you need to tell yourself and have a clear picture in your mind of who you want to be. And it has to be clear. Don't imprint what you don't want, imprint what you want. That's not a false sense. So for me, when I follow a process and less of an outcome, I'm more positive. Nothing works all the time. Just keep remembering, process is the most important thing. In Systema, it's moving, it's breathing, it's staying calm, right? No aggression, like not over trying, let things develop. These are all the things that you see taught in other martial arts too at the higher levels, but it's very hard to attain because it has to deal with your self-image. It's the way you see yourself. Your skills are way ahead of who you see inside yourself. That's really, really important. Okay, that you talk to that person inside you and say, no, I am the person that can do this. I am the person that can escape when things get really fast. But they scare me. I get it. It scares me. But I'm going to stay calm and I'm going to default to the process. When the person is swing at you like crazy, all of a sudden, what jumps forward is your brain to think, saying, oh, brace for impact, brace for impact. And that's a worry. And thinking makes you slow. It makes you try too hard, and then you get hit, right? And that becomes that punishment. So the mistake that most people make is that they go back to training and they think, I have to work harder. Big mistake, huge mistake. Beep, 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 beep. It's screaming at you. Don't make that mistake. It's not harder. Stop trying so hard. What you need to do is saying physically, that's part of the triangle. You got that. Now it's self-image. That's the next part of the triangle. It's and also belief. Like, you don't need a lot of things, but you need to believe in them, right? Under pressure, you need to believe in them. And that takes time. That comes with lots of time. But so I forgot to say something. So your brain wants to hijack it. It wants to solve your problem, which is a mistake. So now what are we left with? Because for me to operate under pressure, it needs to be subconscious. I just need to know what I'm doing. And that comes with some repetition. That doesn't mean technique subconsciously. It means my body needs to rehearse how I want it. So when we're moving on the ground in Systema, when we're breathing, when we're staying relaxed, we're subconsciously practicing the way we want to do it when it's fast, not the way so I don't care what anybody says. Like, I'll give you a funny example of something fast. A lot of people think sprinters move very fast, but in their mind, they're slowing themselves down. They're slowing their mind down, but speeding their body up. So this is where most people can't make that connection. You ever fired a shotgun? Okay, so there's this sport called skeet. I don't know if they have it there, skeet or trap shooting, where they throw like a little disco, right? Have you ever tried that? Try that. Watch, everybody swings the shotgun way too fast and shoots in front of that little thing. Not me. I did that sport maybe 10 times. I'm pretty damn good, man. And it's because I understand how to speed up without hurrying. That's the trick. How to go fast without speeding up the mind, without speeding up your thought process. Because when you speed up the body, you speed up the mind. And when you speed up the mind, it worries and it panics. I need to hurry slowly in my mind. But my body's fast, but my mind stays the same. Okay, that's how you show up on time. Okay, that's the best explanation I ever heard of a professional. A professional is somebody that shows up on time without hurrying. Doesn't hurry, right? They don't hurry. So when I see people escalating tension or escalating training stress, it's fine. But I need to understand what you've done to show me that you've accomplished this level, because there's a lot of guys that just think going fast and scaring yourself means that you're more proficient. It's a load of garbage. It's a load of garbage. I need to understand where you understood this from. I can tell you exactly where I understood mine from. I can tell you exactly where I got it from and exactly the results I got, because and that's why I believe in them so much, because they've tested them under pressure. This is what happens to me. This is how I've had it. I'll give you a story about unless you have a question, go ask. It seems like you have a question.
I wanted to say, please do.
Okay, so a fighting story. Not that long ago, less than 10 years ago, I got into a massive fight protecting somebody. I was protecting a girl that was in trouble. Her boyfriend was quite drunk. I was the only one around. I kind of knew them, not enough to maybe protect them, but I did. So that was just, I felt like it. And the fight quickly escalated to many people around me. So we're talking, I'm not exaggerating here. There's easily 10 to 15 people around me, okay? And I was fighting all of them by myself. I did great. Everything was amazing. To my right side, there was a young man, maybe 18, 19 years old, not that old, bigger than me, but a young kid nonetheless. And he was very close. He was just waiting for his time to punch me as everybody was fighting me. And I did okay. I definitely showed them what one person can do. But this one kid, he looked rather scared to me. So I never really worried about him. He was I never even thought he had the courage to throw a punch. So all these people are punching at me, I'm kicking, I'm punching them back. I'm totally in my Sistema moment. It was awesome. But then out of nowhere, as everything was kind of slowing down, everybody was getting tired of trying to beat me up and not working. This one kid, I don't know where I feel like, boom, right across my chin. I look over at him and I was shocked. I said, all these guys were trying to hit me, but nobody could hit me. That was moving so well. And then the one kid I never thought had the courage enough to throw a punch, caught me across the face good. And I look at him and now he's completely terrified. He's shocked that he touched me because all these people couldn't. He couldn't believe that he did. That was the look on his face. And I looked at him and I smiled. I said, well, I guess I gotta get hit by somebody. Like I under pressure, I didn't lose who I was. That moment is a definitive moment in my training in Sistema. I was not outcome oriented. I was not about not being touched. I was about being safe. And in the moment, the guy caught me across the jaw. Okay, he caught me. I mean, it was a big fight. I guess I had to get hit. And I could appreciate the courage that kid did to throw that punch. He watched all his friends getting beat up, and now he managed to get a punch on me. And that was fine. My ego was in place. My humility was in place. I did not need to respond to that. He was terrified after he hit me. He was just, he was wanting to run away if I approached him. I know it. I could appreciate that. I didn't lose my humility. Under pressure, I didn't lose who I was. That to me is what you want to be like under pressure. You don't want to be a savage. You don't want to be angry. You don't want to be aggressive. You want to keep your humility and understand that lots of things happen, right? So that was one moment where I actually understood what it means to operate under pressure as a true martial artist, as somebody that takes this as a craft. I'm not just trying to prove I'm the baddest ass. I just need to know what I didn't lose myself. I didn't damage people past everybody could, nobody was broken in two pieces, so it was deep. In archery, the same thing. I have competed in big competitions and done really, really well for myself. And I knew nothing about what everybody else was doing, only myself. I was happy because I did well. And then I found out later I had won. I didn't even focus on the winning. I just focused on I shot my best round ever. That's all that mattered to me. And then I found out after I had won. I didn't know. It was a byproduct, right? I trained myself to follow a process. I trained myself to know myself and to perform as best as I can for myself. It didn't matter if the other person beat me. I'm not I totally commend if somebody can beat me, but I will not be okay with beating myself. And you as well shouldn't be okay with you beating yourself up, meaning about something. So look at what you have and say to yourself, I want pressure. Pressure is not bad. Pressure is like air. Too much and the balloon bursts. Too little and it's not filled up enough. So you need to find out what is the right amount of pressure for you to still be you. And then build that up. But too much pressure and breaking balloons, that won't teach you a thing. That just reinforces a broken balloon. That does not reinforce that thing. Does that make sense? This is the most critical thing that you need to see pressure. Make sure there's a good process in place, that you follow that process, not the outcome. The outcome is irrelevant, right? The outcome is irrelevant. And try to ask yourself, what is it that broke down? Because too many martial artists go fast and are negatively imprinting themselves, negatively imprinting. Negative. The other example I wanted to give you was when injuries. When people injure themselves, there's a negative imprint, like something broke, right? Like I had busted my knee. There's a negative imprint on that 30 years ago, right? I'm always making sure that I positively imprint my knee. I do a lot of strength training on my knee. I do a lot of flexibility, and I'm talking to it saying, it's okay. Everything is fine. Don't think about the bad thing that happened. You have to have those conversations. Otherwise, you're going to try too hard. Otherwise, you're going to worry too much. It won't be you performing at your best. You'll be fighting yourself, which is no good. Okay. Ask you. It looks like you had a question.
I'm listening.
No. Well, okay. So great. So continue listening. But you ask me a question. Just interrupt me anytime. Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's a deep one, this thing, and I think it's much more important than a lot of other stuff, because
it is the most important. It is not if you have trained in Systema for 5 years properly by anybody, I don't care who it is. If you train for 5 years, 2-3 times a week, properly training with a good instructor, from here on in, it's all mental. You're way behind on the mental training. Not saying you, but people are way behind on mental training, but they don't want to do it. Like I see in archery all the time. People blame their equipment. They think something's wrong with their equipment. If I only had better equipment, I would perform better. If I only had, they want to blame something. They don't want to blame themselves. They don't want to look at themselves. How is it that a great golfer can take anybody's clubs and play an amazing round? It doesn't matter about the equipment. It's you're the equipment. So ability is way up here, but self-image is way down here. And people think that, they want the image, but they don't want to work on the self-image. The self-image is the hardest part. It's sitting down and really having a good look as to what kind of a person you think you are, right? Why do you think those guys in hypnosis are so good? They hypnotize the person like, you're the king. You're the king of the world. And people just, they walk around like, and it's like, it's amazing to watch. It's like, and they will walk around and in their heart believe they're king. And it's like, it's amazing, when somebody who's been, let's say, in a bad relationship really says to themselves, I deserve better. And all of a sudden, boom, they get better because they said, I want better. I deserve better. I want better. When you're training, the big mistake is training more and more and more and harder and harder and harder. That's not where they go. Most athletes like training hard, don't get me wrong, but when they perform, they want it easy. They want it easy. I want to perform. If I'm a football player, I want to play football. I want to play. I want to perform. I don't want to think. I want to feel the game. I want to have fun out here like kids. I don't want to thinking about I've got to make this team. Thinking about I've got to make this shot. Thinking about I got to take this guy down now. That's the kiss of death. The only thing that separates me, when you watch me doing demos, and I had this yesterday with the students at Fight Club, I said, the only reason things work for me more than you is because I truly believe in what I'm doing. My self-image is, I don't plan a takedown. I let you grab me and I figure it out at that moment. And so because of that, I'm truly free. I'm not burdened, right? I don't want a burden. I want options. I want options. I don't want burdens. Burdens is me thinking. That's a burden. I have to think about this. I want options. When people grab me, I can put them down. I can move them. I can go left. I can go right. I can punch. I can kick. I can tickle. I can pinch. I can slap. I have lots of options. Why would I take those off the table? I'm not taking anything off the table. I truly let the person come at me as they are. And if they upset me, they upset me. If they make me happy, they make me happy. If they make me laugh, they make me laugh. I put a clip online. I was showing somebody about how to hit with the feeling, and they kicked the pad off my arm. Okay, I was totally in a serious zone trying to show this person something, and at that quick moment, I just started laughing. And you could see, like, I give myself permission to laugh. I give myself permission to cry. I give myself permission to be angry, but I allow it. I don't. It's not a burden for me. It's not like a bugs me. Open yourself. Like, so how will you do this is going to be critical. So I'm all for adding pressure, but under pressure, you have to default to a process. What is the process as things speed up? As things get more intense, what is the process that you follow? And the moment the process starts to break down, we stop, because we're going to be negatively imprinting our brain, right? So for me, let's say I'll give you another archer example. There's 60 arrows. I don't think about 60 arrows. I shoot one arrow 60 times. That's it. When I make a bad one, I said, that's interesting. I make a good one, that's interesting. It's the same thing. Nothing. The one thing that helped me a lot in archery was because I was quite good, and then sometimes you realize maybe I don't deserve to be that good. I don't know why, because I'm beating people that are quite a bit better than me, right? So I would say to myself between shots, oh, I made a 10 or an X, a bullseye. Shooting bullseyes is like me. I'm imprinting that it's like me to shoot bullseyes. It's not unlike me, right? When you have a great day, it's like me to have a good day. It's like me to be positive, right? Don't imprint negative things, right? If I make 40 good shots in an archery match and I make 20 average or mediocre, I only think about the 40 good ones. I forget about the other ones. I want to imprint the good ones, right? Recently, I had I did a tournament where 57 arrows were in the bullseye and only 3 I missed. So it was almost a record, Canadian record. And a guy asked me, what happened with those 3 arrows? And I fixed my glasses and I looked at the guy. I said, do you really want to know why I missed 3 shots? Or wouldn't you rather want to know how I made 57? Like, if I was a scientist, or if I was somebody's like, tell me all the ways I could fuck up. And if I learn all the ways to fuck up, I'll learn how to be successful. Really? Is that how that's going to work? If you learn enough ways to fuck up that you're going to learn, is that really, you really think that? And he's like, I never thought of it like that. You don't learn like that. You learn by repeating what works for you. And you need to be very clear what works for you and what builds you success, right? And in all target sports, everyone has the same thing. When the shot goes off, it should surprise you. If you're thinking about it, it's not going to be a bullseye. It's a surprise. The same holds true in martial arts. If you're thinking about a takedown, it won't work. It should surprise you. Because if it surprises you, it'll surprise the person. If I don't know what I'm doing, how could you figure it out, right? And that's the best way to take people down. This is surprise. What's the best way you like to have a gift? Think about it. Is it really Christmas, or is it the surprise gift that somebody gets you? Like the bottle of wine, that bottle that you got me, that you sent me with I haven't even drunk yet. I have to find the right time. That was such a beautiful surprise, even to my family. So who got you? So it's old Miro. And he goes, oh, my wife was like, wow, what a beautiful surprise. Like, even surprised her. It's those No, but those are the most beautiful gifts, aren't they not? Like, it's not the ones we get on Christmas or Valentine's Day, right? What?
That's like me.
Yeah. No, but that is like you, right? See?
Like shipping this when I want to. That's what I meant.
But that's what, but you see how beautiful that is. So we should look for that in all things in life, right? It's not about Valentine's Day getting letters, giving flowers to one. It's you on a Friday. I always go and get flowers. Like I got my daughter a beautiful gift today, you know, and she was so shocked because I couldn't believe it, you know, before she goes away to university for second year. It's like, don't do things like it's the surprise is more powerful for people. It's so much more touching, right? So it's very much like this when we train, like the surprise yourself. Like it's a beautiful thing, you know, when your self-image and ability are in sync, that's when Olympic records fall. That's when they fall. That's when you truly believe. When you go outside of yourself is what I want you to find. I don't want you to find yourself. I want you to go past even what you think. Why is it so powerful? People like Wim Hof, like the Iceman, right? Why is he so powerful? Because he takes people past what they thought. They thought they could freeze to death, you know, like in the water. But he's like, no, you're fine. And that's the most powerful. When somebody takes your self-image a mile past what you thought, a mile past. Really, I remember one summer camp Vlad did up north of the city. It was like one of the first ones. And the warm-up was the same every day. He said, every day, morning, noon, and night, we're going to do the same thing. 10 minutes, we're going to hold a push-up. 10 minutes, we're going to hold a squat. And 10 minutes, we're going to hold leg. That's going to be the warm-up. And then we're going to start training. Every day, 3 times a day. So 3 times a day for 5 days, you're going to do 10-minute push-up. Guys, people were falling after 4 minutes. Guess what? In 2 days, everybody held the push-up for 10 minutes. Everybody held the squats. And by the 5th day, we were talking freely while we were holding. I never thought that you could get somebody to hold a 10-minute push-up so fast. But how did they do it? Because everybody was around. The group is more powerful than the individual. That's why training on your own is okay, but training with a good group is way more powerful, right? That's what they said about the Spartan warriors as well. It was not the individual, it was the group that was tight that what made them so powerful. It's not each individual person. That is subject, right? So the training group that people have needs to be tight, needs to be, you know, that way it's solid, right? That way they push each other. So back to your original question about pressure and that hit on your head. I've had many of these things in my time, and some more severe than others. They rarely taught me much other than made me feel like I was accomplishing something under pressure and made me feel like it was more real, right? That rarely accomplishes what you want. When I go into a competition of any sort, I don't want to hope. I want to know what I'm doing. I don't want to hope I make a bullseye. I want to know I can make bullseyes. When you are training, you don't want to hope you can do something. You want to know you can do something because you believe in the process that you've chosen. And if it doesn't work for you, you're going to go back to practice and you're going to find one that you believe in. That's the most important thing. And you're going to find one that you believe in real situations, not in practice. You don't need to be that guy who could kick a ball 80 yards in practice, but in a game can only kick 30 yards. You do not want to be that guy. You want to be the guy that kicks an 80-yard field goal in practice and kicks a 100-yard field goal in games. Like, you want to be better because you've trained yourself to be better under pressure. So teach yourself very carefully to be better under pressure. The moment you start to shrink under pressure, stop. Don't imprint that. Do not imprint that. Okay? Make sense? The last example I'll give you, which is really the one that was the most profound. That's why I'm telling you the stuff I know under pressure is from real stuff. There was a cycling coach who was working with some of the best cycling. He wrote a book. His name was called Phil McAphone. You can research Phil McAphone. I think it was Phil. And McAphone for sure was his last name. Phil, maybe not. Anyway, he wrote a book. I think it was called The Great Book of Endurance Training. It was strictly for endurance athletes. And his whole thing was to go to teach your body, to teach your heart being the main muscle, right? To go as low as you can, but your speed to go as high as you can. See what I'm saying? But what do most athletes do? They teach their heart to go as fast as it can, 180, 200 beats per minute, and then pedal as fast as you can. He was saying, if you go this way, if you bring your heart rate down and you bring your effort level as high as you can, you're going to be more efficient. And in endurance sport, you're going to be more practical. And I remember when he said that, he talked about cyclists not scaring themselves when they're on their bikes. He goes, when you're pedaling and you're going hard in a race, because he didn't work with amateurs, he worked with pros. These are guys that want to win the Ironman. These are guys that want to win the Tour de France. These are guys that want to win a marathon. They're not guys that just want to finish one. There's difference. He was high level, okay? And he talked a lot about don't scare your body. Don't make your body panic and think it has to win the race. You want your body to be efficient. And when it's efficient, you can win the race. And that was his theory. And he talked a lot about when your heart rate is going very fast, it forces your body to burn sugar. And when you burn sugar, it's it changes your effort levels. It changes how you process energy. It doesn't allow you to access the right energy systems, right? He talked about if you keep your heart rate low, you'll burn fat as a fuel source, and fat is a very predictable fuel source. And the book is huge, Miro. Like we're talking like fucking, I couldn't read it in 5 years. It's a huge book. The amount of research this guy had here, and the winners, the people that won Ironman, the Hawaiian Ironman, the Boston Marathons, the Tour de France 10-time winners. This dude coached them all. And he talked about pressure, and he talked about you have to go hard, but you have to bring your heart rate down. Keep your heart rate down. I'm the same in martial arts. The pressure goes up, your calmness goes down. You become calmer. You don't become angrier. If you become angry, it's like a high heart rate. You're gonna try too hard, and you're not gonna be a predictable outcome. You're gonna hope to win. Hope. That's it. You're not gonna.
How would you address freezing at this situation? Because that's very
too much. That's too much pressure, scaring the person. Too much. So these are the extremes. Too little, and you're lazy. So when I'm going to compete in archery, if I worry too much, then I'm trying too hard. What's the opposite of trying too hard? Well, I'm just not going to care. Well, that's just as bad. That's the opposite side. You need to find the right amount of pressure that makes you operate, right? And then stay there. So when I find the right amount of pressure for me, I increase the pressure, but I keep the pressure there. Does that make sense? Like you have to know where you operate the best. I don't operate the best when people yell at me. People start yelling at me, you do not get the best out of me. And I thought I was unique. But then I read a book on the Gurkhas. If you've ever read the Gurkhas, right? Famous English colonels, generals, you name it, and saying, you do not yell at the Gurkhas. You clearly tell them what you want, and they will get it done. They do not deal well with pressure, yelling pressure. These are the most fierce fighters in the world. Right? So I don't care. Everybody's different. You tell me what you need done, and I'm going to get it done. That's me. I know how to put the right amount of pressure on myself to get something done. Somebody else putting pressure on me, it's like, that's got to stop. Right? I've actually told people that were yelling at me one time, saying, so you got to stop that because that's not going to get the best out of me. Yeah, some guy was teaching a boot camp thing. It was yelling at everybody to do more push-ups. I said, you got to stop that, man. It's not going to work for me. It's not going to work. I tell you, I won't do more push-ups because you told me. I'll do more push-ups because I decide to do more push-ups, because I see the value in myself. I see how it's going to help me. But I'm not going to put all this pressure on myself to do more push-ups because you said so. right? I'm not gonna sell drugs because I want to make more money. I'm not gonna do it to myself. I know where my limits are. I know what I won't do, and I know what I will do. I know the self-image that I want. I understand the person, the man I want to be, and the person I want to be. You're the same. What kind of martial artist do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? Make your training and all of the stuff accomplish that. I like pressure. I love pressure, but too much pressure and me trying too hard builds ego. I feel like I build my ego, right? I'm trying to put my ego down. I don't want to be, you need to humble yourself sometimes. Otherwise it's too much, right? So I need you to find a better balance with pressure, okay? Let me, if you don't mind, I'll recommend a book. I'll send you a message about a book that I think will help you. Now, it's a little bit more geared towards sports, but with your perspective, you'll be able to understand a little bit about it'll give you a different angle about pressure that maybe you can think about. Okay.
Yeah, please do if you can. I would appreciate
I
it.
will. You'll love it. I know there's the audio book, and if you like audiobooks, you like reading more. Which do you like?
I'm more reading, but the time, children. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
on.
exactly. Yeah, okay. I'll send you a message. I think it'll maybe do a little bit better job than I'm doing now, but it's hard like now to give you all the years of mental training I've had, right? It's been a lot. And I realized that it at the higher levels, mental training is 80% of the game. 80%.
Yeah, I
The
think
big
I'm
percentage.
more right now at this moment when I'm realizing that not all the things that I'm doing are correct, and not all the things that I'm doing are really helping me, and a lot of is putting me down. So I'm right now getting a lot of getting outside of my comfort zone, creating actually more conflict than less, but trying to do productive conflict, not like a destructive conflict. And
But you're saying, I think you're referring to destructive as a physical thing. What about a mental thing? That see, maybe you physically don't get hurt or just a bump or just a bruise, but what about the self-image? And that's very important. You have to protect this. Like before, in the old days, people used to protect their money. Now you need to protect your time. You need to protect your mental, what you're imprinting. I'm very careful with how much news you watch. That imprinting is very negative, right? It imprints the negative. Even social media. I don't watch, even though I'm a martial artist for years, I don't watch people fighting on YouTube. No. I don't want that mental image imprinting. I don't want to see. I understand violence. I don't need to see that. It makes you angry. It makes you scared. It bitters you. I'm in reality, but I'm not into scarring my mind and my self-image. I don't want that. I'm very careful with that. Much like you're very careful with your kids, right? You're very careful with the things you need to be the same with yourself. Be as careful with what you say, the what you're listening to, and how it's affecting your image in your head of yourself. It's not false. It's just be careful what it's doing. So if I'm under a pressure situation I can feel sometimes my self-image growing, because a dose of reality is very good, but too much scars you, right? Like this is fine. It's a scratch. If I go harder, I scar myself. I rip, I get it. That's not, you ever seen somebody with a compulsive? They literally can make their skin raw. But people do that with their mind. They can have a problem that they scratch in their mind so much that problem is etched in their head. They can't let it go. And that's really bad, right? So let me it'd be interesting. I'm gonna send you a message with the title of this book, and then after you read it, we'll have maybe a more depth in conversation. It will really change your training, right? Because I think this is missing in a lot of ways in people's training, and I wish they would get, because again, it's easier for people to say, well, if I just train harder, or if I just get a new technique, or if I maybe change a different martial arts style. It's not that, guys. It's not that. It's you. The work is inside you, but nobody wants to do this work. right? They don't want to do it.
So what would you recommend as a direction? Because the work will always be mine and I'm dedicated to work, maybe sometimes
Yeah.
too much.
So like I said, let me get you the book. That'll be a good place to start, and maybe we can have a more balanced conversation after that. Because right now, the stuff is abstract. But I can only tell you, physical training without understanding the mental connection is useless. I will never shoot my bow without being connected to my mental thoughts about that. Every arrow I shoot, I do with great mental awareness. Where do I want it to go? How do I want it to go? Every single student I train, everybody that I ever trained, I train like it's my own kid. I think about it. That's the way I train people. I cannot train any other way. I take it as my family. I don't care if they're angry. I don't care if they piss me off. I don't care if they upset me. I train like from a deep connection is to like, I care about you. I care about who you are and what you're going to become. I will never punch on you carelessly. I would never, it's with great care. That's the way I do it. And this is the way. So every time I take a person down, every time I come to a class, every time I teach, it's from a great mental connection. I've thought about the class. I've thought about what I want to accomplish. Where I want to take people. It's never just, well, I saw somebody do this and we'll just do that. Right? That's actually my big joke in class when people ask me about something they're doing. It says, wow, what does this mean? And I'll go, I don't know. I just saw it on a show. I thought we'd try it and see what happens. Everybody's like, they're not sure no, I never do anything. I always do things from great mental place of where they are. Why did you take the person down? Why did you punch that person? Why did you decide to do the takedown this way? What were you thinking when you put that person down? Right? Where was your mind state? What did you hope to accomplish when you hit the person? Did you want them to become angrier or happier? And they're like, I don't know, I never thought of it. So you just picked up your fist and punched another person without any plan. It's the most useless thing. You just picked up a weapon and used it against somebody without any thought. If this was a gun range and I had a gun and I just picked up my gun and started whipping around it like this, people say, what are you thinking when you're moving the gun around? I don't know. I'm thinking about nothing. Really? That's so careless. So careless.
What about the opposite angle? Like you were talking about why did you do this? But what about the fact talking about why didn't you do this when you could have done this?
That's a negative
like
inference. Could have, should have, would have will kill you in life. You can't do that. Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? You can't operate like that. The best doctor in the world can only make a diagnosis, man. Can only make a diagnosis, man. That's all he can do. It's a guess. A diagnosis is a guess. Because the doctor is not trying to not be right. He's listening to his gut. He's listening to what, based on all his knowledge, what does his body and mind tell him is the problem? And he tries to just say it, right? This is what I think it is, but we need to test it. And they test it and they figure out what the problems are, right? That's why I want you to train yourself not to think, but to feel. This is the big part of Sistema. Like, the thinking will never end. You'll always say, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? But for somebody who has to make a decision right now, there's no, I love, like, you ever talk to people from war-torn countries? Like, when everything's at peace, everybody asks, well, what do you think? And everybody is all over the place with their thinking. But in a war, whose side are you on? That side or that side? It's simple. There's no, well, I'm a little bit of this, I'm a little bit of that. It's like, you tell me which side you're on, and it's clear because it depends on it. Like, this becomes quite interesting for me, right? So the decisions we make, and when under pressure, we're not trying to be right, but I want you to be able to make a decision, because most people die, they never make a decision. Please make a decision, right? It's actually the single most important thing to train yourself is to make a decision, right? If you want to lose weight, if somebody wants to lose weight, it's not the diet. They haven't made the decision they want to lose weight yet. They've said it, but they haven't truly decided. When you truly decide about something, you'll make it happen if you decide, right? But what do people need to make a strong decision? The doctor has to knock on the door and say, yeah, you've got a big problem. My cousin, he was always 100 pounds overweight. He couldn't lose his weight. He tried all this weight until he needed a hernia operation. And the doctor said, I can't operate on you until you lose 60 pounds because you're too heavy. You need to lose weight. Otherwise, you have to live with this friggin' bulging organ coming out of your stomach. Guess what? He lost weight. He couldn't make the decision. The doctor had to make it for him. So I want you to be able to make your own decisions, not a doctor. That's really, I want you to make the decisions as to why you need mental training. That's why I want you to read the book. And this one book, there's many, but one that I know is pretty good. And it's kind of applies to lots of things, not anything specific. And I think you'll be able to get a lot out of it. And then after you've read that, after you've understood it and thought about it, now maybe you see your physical training differently. Now you realize that you've been disconnected for too long. Connect, right?
What you said, I already know that I've been disconnected for too long. I'm just struggling to find myself back.
No, you're there. I'm not worried that you're going to find it. And just put some determination behind what you're doing, right? It might seem like you're getting worse a little bit. Constantine talked about this in his book in the training, the systemic training that he talked about. He goes, it seemed like I was getting worse. It will seem like that because you're taking a step back so that you can take 10 forward. Big difference, okay? Cool. Let's leave it at that. Otherwise, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, man. I think a lot of people get a lot out of it. Listen, man, don't give up on yourself. Yeah, you're too young to do that. I'm not giving up on myself, and I'm 53. You know, I have many goals in my life still left. I have more to do in my retirement than I ever had to do when I was younger. I'm too busy to retire. But any lofty goals that I have are driven by the better me. That I'm in search of not beating another person, but in bettering myself because I enjoy that. I enjoy that process. It's like, I feel like we should all strive to be the best versions of ourselves. We really should. And we honor, who do we honor when we do that? Our loved ones, your wife, your kids. The better you are, the better you are for them. So do it for those things and for humanity, for everybody. People should see this, right? So don't ever accept, anything less, right? I'll show you a few things I put up at the Fight Club. I'll show you just so you can see it quickly. There's some posters I put up to kind of get people thinking the right way. I don't know if you can see it there. So how long are you going to wait before you demand better of yourself? This one's my favorite. Are you happy? No? Do you want to be happy? That's a great one right here. Because then it says, yes, change something. And then it says, did it work? No, change something. It goes into a loop. Look, it says, keep doing what you're doing, right? If it works, keep doing what you're doing. Are you happy? Yes, keep doing what you're doing. Like, it's such a simple flow chart of how people don't often think about, Anna, are you happy? Is that the metric? It's number one metric for me. If you're not happy, you're not going to do it, right? There's another one. See it there, right? Your real competition, your procrastination, your ego. And then it gives this whole list that says, compete against this. That's the stuff that's the good stuff, man. But you've heard all kinds of people talk about that. But the mental side, which is the side you're asking me about, I think you're going to really love. So I'm looking forward to you reading that book and then us having a good discussion about it, because it's one that it's where I'm at, and it's the stuff that interests me a lot. I get people want physical training. I understand that. There's no doubt about it, but I think that the mental training is really where things are at right now. So let me send you the book, and let's talk next week, and we'll go from there, all right?
It'll take me a while till I buy it, until I read it, but
Well, the audiobook, but the audiobook available like that, like you can download it in 2 seconds and listen to it at least, and then if you like what you hear, you can buy the book, right? But the audiobook is pretty good. Guy's been around a long time, and there's many guys out there on the mental side of training now, but I don't like reading martial art. I think some of the problems that people have is the problem with martial artists is martial artists. The problem with fitness people is fitness people. The problem with archery people is archery people. Like, you need to go outside from a different angle to see what you're doing in that thing. Otherwise, you just get, I don't know, it just becomes very, too specific. I'm looking for knowledge and wisdom that's can apply to all kinds of things, not to one thing, right? And please, when you're talking about pressure and you're going to study how to be good under pressure or under stress, make sure the person that's teaching you understand how they acquired their skills. If they can't show you, don't follow, because there's a lot of hacks out there that I've seen that try to tell you how to behave, and when you actually look at it, they're destroying more people than they could imagine, right? Like, I believe me, I'm a rugby player. I know tough. I know pressure. I've been there, right? But I've also seen a lot of people that are careless and just breaking people, and that's not what I want to do. It takes a long time to build a positive training effect. It takes 1 second to break it. You know, it takes one silly, careless act to make somebody instill fear that will be a lifetime in a person, right? And you should, if I'm going to let you scare me and I'm going to put all this pressure on me, I want to make sure that I have the tools to know how to navigate it and not negatively self-imprint myself. I just don't want that, you know, because anytime that's done, like it could take years to undo. I don't want to do that. I would not do that. And don't do that to yourself. It's only going to cause you more heartache than it is, and it create any proficiency. Just scare you. Don't scare yourself. Build good pressure situation stuff. Okay. You well, my friend.
Will do. Thank
See
you
you
for your
soon.
time. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome, Nerds. I'll send you a link a little bit later today. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Be well, my friend. All the best.
All the
Bye-bye.
best. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.